Good morning. We are going to be looking at Jesus' words that are really challenging words. They certainly challenge the modern impulse of our aggression and anger and propensity to respond when we get wounded or hurt. It's that old adage, right? Hurt people hurt people. We don't want to be those kinds of people. And if the character and the soil of our own heart is not properly aligned and properly cultivated, then we will become the kind of person that will respond almost instinctively in a kind of vengeful spirit. Listen to Jesus' words here in Matthew 5:38 and following. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. That's 5:38-39. We're going to talk a little bit about just the beginning there, especially in verse 38. You've heard that it was said. Now remember, we keep reminding you, Jesus is using both what was said in the law, but also how the Pharisees and religious leaders misinterpreted and misappropriated phrases from the law. This is a great example of how that happened. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You might wonder, what was the context of that actually given in the Old Testament? Here it is, Deuteronomy 19:15-21. That phrase comes from verse 21, but listen to the context. A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or for any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses shall a charge be established. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties to the dispute shall appear before the Lord, before the priests and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and the rest shall hear and fear, and shall never again commit any such evil among you. Your eye shall not pity, it shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. So, what clearly was happening in Jesus' day is the religious leaders are quoting that little phrase, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And they're using it as a reason, right? A statute for them to be able to respond in individuated vengeance to an individuated wrong. I get to get you back because you did this to me. If you do A, I do A, and only I do it harder back to you. That is not at all the spirit of the law. The law that I just read to you was a specific judicial code that was established for how to handle particular offenses that included witnesses, parties appearing before the priests and the judges who are in office and before the Lord. There's a legal system here at play. The Pharisees were using it and the religious leaders were using it as a tool of responsive vengeance, of vindictiveness. And what Jesus is going to do is immediately flip the script, right? So all I want you to do this morning is just maybe take the day and think about, how do you respond when you are wounded? How do you respond when you are wounded? There are 2 of my favorite quotes in the world. Mike Tyson and Warren Buffett couldn't be further away from each other. But Mike Tyson famously said, everyone has a plan until he gets punched in the mouth. Spoken like a true prize fighter. Everyone has a plan until he gets punched in the mouth. You can plan to be kind to people, then you get punched. What's your character and how will you respond? Warren Buffett, talking about finances, but I think it has great application and it's humorous. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. He was using that to talk about you don't have a lot of finances and you're a little thin in your finances. And we find out when the tide goes out, when things happen in the economy that expose the lack of depth of your finances. But it's true when life happens You're swimming upstream and negativity comes against you. We find out about what you're really made of. We find out how you're really dressed in your culture, what real attire you have on. We find out, to quote Mike Tyson, whether or not you really can adapt in the moment when life hits you in the mouth. So my question to you is this. When life comes at you, are you the kind of person that's going to give as good as you get? Or has something else been cultivated in the soil of your heart that reflects the Spirit of Christ? We'll talk more about that as we continue to think about Jesus' words in the days ahead. Take care and God bless.